We start tonight with a high-stakes ballot measure. This November, Californians will decide whether new voter ID requirements should be added to the state constitution. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto. That new measure, led by San Diego Republican Assemblymember Carl DeMaio, would require showing an ID at polling places or including an ID number on mail-in ballots. Now, while supporters say this will boost confidence in elections, opponents say it amounts to voter suppression. CBS 8's Richard Allen is here with more from both sides of this contentious issue. Richard.
Well, Carlo, that's right. This measure would also mandate annual reports on voter citizenship verification rates. Now, currently, California does not require voters to show ID at the polls, but this issue is now gaining momentum throughout the country, led by President Trump, pushing for voter ID laws to address unproven claims of widespread voter fraud.
It's not a partisan issue. It's just good government.
Republican Assemblymember Carl DeMaio is leading the charge for this voter ID measure, which secured more than 962,000 valid signatures to qualify for the November ballot.
I believe that this initiative will restore public trust and confidence, and we'll actually see more participation in elections as a result.
But opponents fiercely contest that prediction.
It's really just a Trumpist policy to suppress voters and try to maintain power being imported into California. It's like the SAVE Act light for California.
Brittany Stonecipher with Common Cause California points out that California already verifies voters' eligibility at the time they register.
And cross-reference them with the DMV database and Social Security Administration. So really they're just requiring people to double show their ID when they've already done it when they registered.
Opponents also say requiring ID to cast a ballot will disproportionately impact voters who already face barriers. Jenny Farrell is executive director of the League of Women Voters of California.
Communities of color, voters with disabilities, seniors, and low-income voters are all less likely to have the required documentation readily available.
She also says that this measure addresses a problem, widespread voter fraud, that does not exist.
You're more likely to be struck by lightning in the United States than you are to commit voter fraud in an election in the United States. So, why are we putting our voters through new burdensome procedures? Why are we charging our taxpayers more money to erect these new procedures when we don't have any problem that they're addressing?
DeMaio also points out this measure will preserve mail-in voting, requiring voters to include a personalized 4-digit PIN from a government document like a driver's license or social security card on the outside of the ballot envelope. Opponents say this would expose voters to potential identity theft.
And if people don't want to use one of the government IDs that they have, like a driver's license, a passport, or social security number, they can actually request a free voter ID under our initiative as well.
And a recent poll by the Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies finds that voters at this point are nearly evenly split on this issue. 44% surveyed were in favor of the measure, while 45% were opposed, 12% undecided at this point. But you can bet between now and November, both sides are going to be working very hard to try to shift those numbers.
We're going to see a lot of commercials on this one in particular. Now, if this does happen to pass, how much would it cost to implement the changes that they're pushing for in this ballot measure?
Well, the Secretary of State put out a notice saying that it would cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars to implement this measure. And that's something that opponents are pointing to as why we should vote against it. Carl DeMaio, though, tonight, he is blasting those numbers. He says that this measure will actually save taxpayers money, for example, by doing away with the state's current signature verification system. But again, there's a lot of back and forth on both sides of this issue.
It sure might be less expensive long term, but any changeover in technology like that is going to cause an investment initially. So.
Exactly.
Interesting stuff. Richard Allen, we'll be talking about this a lot more throughout this year.
For sure. Thank you, Carla.
Thanks, Richard.